All right, Lisa, go ahead.
Hey there, this is Lisa Campion, and this is your superior self.
Lisa, thank you for taking the time. I can't wait to chat with you about being an empath psychic. I want to know your story. Thank you for taking the time.
Hey, Trey, thanks so much for having me on your show. I'm super excited to talk about all those things.
Yeah, yeah. So let's how did it start for you? So I started reading your book a little bit, and I got a little bit of your story in the preface. Um, how did all this start for you?
So I was one of those I see dead people kids way back in the day. Like I was born in the 60s. So I grew up in the 70s and 80s, just outside Boston. And lived in a super haunted house, like a big old Victorian house, haunted to the rafters. And back in the day, there were no psychics on TV, no new age bookstores, no books in the library on this topic, nothing, you know.
Mhm.
So I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what was going on, how to deal with it myself, how to pretend to be normal in public, because I didn't want to end up in the mental hospital, which is where they put you if you saw angels and talked to dead people. So, and I had a lot of experiences that I couldn't explain, other people didn't have, seeing
Mhm.
spirits, seeing colors around people, good spirits, bad spirits. So I spent the first 20 years of my life trying to turn it off and figure out what was going on. And eventually I did. Then when I was around 19, it was 80s, the dawn of the new age. And I started finding teachers and books and classes. And that's actually when I started working as a professional psychic when I was 19. And I've never done anything else. This is it. This is my major gig, has been always. And these days I feel like my calling is to help other people, to help emerging psychic healers and empaths explore and maximize their gifts, because a lot of people are going through psychic openings. People are realizing they're maybe an empath. And I'm very happy to be of service to. I wrote the books I couldn't find in the library. I became the teacher that I couldn't find, and the mentor that I wanted to have. So it's really exciting for me to help people not have to do it the hard way like I did.
I love that. I love that being able to help people before they, well, they question themselves, right? And they don't know where to turn and they feel like they're by themselves. And I love that people like yourself put stuff out here and
It
for
can be
them.
really scary. I mean, if
Yeah.
you're just minding your own business and all of a sudden your psychic ability pops open,
Mhm.
it was scary for me. And it's scary for a lot of people who don't have guidance.
How old were you like when you started seeing like people from the other side?
Dude, it was like my very, very first memory ever was lying in my crib and seeing all these glowing people that are made out of light, like blowing kisses and waving and smiling. And my mom walks in the door and walks right through them, and they all disappear. That was my
Wow.
very first. Yeah.
I'm assuming that's probably like three, maybe two, three,
I
something like that.
mean, maybe younger. I mean, I think I was a baby.
Ooh, to have that that memory when you're that young.
When
Wow.
I mean, I was 3 when my sister was born, and I really remember my dad holding me up to look through the window of the nursery, and seeing all the little babies in the bassinets, and he's like, "That was your sister," and there were like spirits swooping around and like relatives standing by there and like angels flying all over, and I was like, "Yeah, but Dad, what are those other things?" And he was like, "Oh, you and your imagination," you
could
know.
could you turn it off if you wanted to?
Not until I was older.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really a problem. And it can still be a problem for me. Like
Mhm.
I know how to do it. I'm like really disciplined. I did a lot of martial arts when I was younger to kind of like strengthen myself. And if I'm on my game, it's off. But if I am not on my game, it's kind of intrusive.
Really? So like you had to put
Yeah.
that wall up, that barrier.
Yeah. Before I go outside, before I'm in public, and if I'm feeling good, I just it's kind of like wearing blinders. I'm
Mhm.
in the store. I'm here to buy vegetables. I don't want to see all that stuff. Like I'm doing what I'm doing and I'm leaving. Um, and it's kind of a discipline where you put your attention. Like you can choose to put your attention on certain things and ignore certain things. And that's what it's like for me right now.
Um, can you use that for your advantage as far as like speaking with loved ones or finding out more information about, things that you're curious about, contacting people that may have passed over that have information that you may want for your own development?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the best things about learning to develop your psychic ability is that we have a big payoff, like of having guidance along the way. But I can tell you that anytime, and this is not just me, but any psychic is super triggered or emotionally charged up about something, we lose our connection.
Mm,
So if you're like, something's going on with one of my kids, or I just had a fight with my significant other, and you're like, then you lose it. You lose your connection until you kind of calm down. And that's why psychics talk to other psychics, or I go back to my divination tools, the tarot cards, or tools, divination tools like that can be helpful to bridge the gap when we're feeling triggered.
mm. I saw something on your website, soul talk, which was very interesting. Connecting with people on a soul level. What kind of, I
Yeah.
mean, like, so when you do that and when you have like a client or someone that you're connecting with on a soul level, do you have to go like in a meditative state? Can you do that? Like, what does that look like?
It just looks like a conversation.
Mhm.
So, because I've been doing it for so long at this point that I can, when I have a client, I sort of switch my vision on and learn. And my specialty as a psychic is to look at people at the level of the soul. And then all of a sudden, all this information is available to me, like what's going on in your past lives, what your purpose is, what you're amazing at, what obstacles you have that are in your way that are preventing you from doing what you're amazing at, where you're going in your future, like what your contracts are with your people. This is all the information that is sort of soul level information. And that's my specialty, I think, as a psychic. But because I've been doing it for so long, I can also, people ask me all kinds of questions, like they have relationship issues and health issues. And, the single number one issue that I get, the question that I get over and over again is, what am I for? It drives people nuts when they can't figure out their life purpose,
Mhm. Is
you know?
I feel like though, I don't know. I get frustrated with that a lot, right? Like I do. What is my life
Mm,
purpose here? I feel like a calling. I know there's something that I need to be doing. What is it that I need to do? Because it's like, as you grow, as you develop, you know, I put it like this, like you start as you grow spiritually or whatever you want to call it, as you expand your consciousness, you start, you know, vibrating, if you want to say, at a different level, and you start vibrating in different levels and you start leveling up, like you're shedding your past self almost, right? Like your past, you want to call it, sometimes it's your friend, sometimes it's your job, or sometimes even spouse or relationships. And it's like, um you start looking for more meaning in your work, or you look for more meaning in your relationships, or more meaning in your development of consciousness. And it's like people get frustrated because they start feeling the higher vibrations, or they start feeling this pull for higher knowing, and they don't know where to turn with that, right? I mean, I'm
mhm.
sure you see it all the time. I
All
feel
the
it,
time. All the
and
time. Me too. I think it's something we all do. We have sort of like two parts of us. We have our personal self, our personality, which is our humanness, and we have our soul self, our higher self. It's got all kinds of names. And the more we tune in to the vibration of our higher self, what our soul is telling us to do, it always wants you to go outside your comfort zone. It's always pushing you to the next stage of, or encouraging you, inviting you to the next stage of development. And our personal selves don't like that very much because it requires change. I don't know about you, but I have days where I just want to sit on the couch and watch Netflix and not do all this hard, crazy, scary things that we all do when we're living a soulful life. We're often called out, we're always called out of the comfort zone and into that change,
Mhm.
and your soulmates be like, dude, quit your job and move to Hawaii, or you got to get divorced, or you have to quit your soul sucking day job and do something more meaningful. And those things have ramifications for our personal self,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, well, you're shedding. It's fear. A lot of it's fear based, right? Like a lot of, I mean, everything derives around fear and ego, fear of ultimate
Yeah.
fear. If you look at every fear, everything, if you look at the root, the base of that fear, it all stems from like fear of death, fear of not being here, fear not,
Fear of the
yeah,
unknown.
yeah. that's what it is.
Yeah.
And the ego wants to be in control. The ego is obviously not who we truly are, but
Right. And it wants a nice, comfy life.
yeah, it does.
And your
It
soul
does.
doesn't care. Your soul has its foot in your backside pushing you out the door, and that, and that it's a battle, I think, for all of us, that where we are sort of pulled in two different directions or have two conflicting sets of needs and desires,
Mhm.
I mean, I'm really impressed, whenever I meet somebody like you who's like very dedicated to living a soulful life, even though it's not easy.
It is not easy because it's a fear. It is a fear of like, what if we're not here, for this, for greatness, right? Like that's a fear of mine. It's like I want to be great. I want to change. I have this, awakening to we are the actor, the producer, the director of this play. And it's like my question is if the actor finds out that he is, all three in one, can he change the backdrop? Can he change the story? Can he
Mhm.
change it if he doesn't like the scene? Like, and to find out you are all these things and then not be able to do that, that's scary for me.
I know, I bet it is, and it, like, can I look at you a little bit? Is it all right if we do a little inner looking,
Sure. Yeah.
soul looking? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you came here to play a really big game and change the world and make an impact. So you're probably always asking, like, am I doing enough? Am I making a big enough impact in the world? And it's not coming from an ego place of like, I want a lot of people to look at me. It's coming from a true desire to change the world. And you have a lot. Can we talk about some past lives? Just a little, like
Yeah.
maybe a
Yeah.
little
I
snippet.
love that stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so you have a lot of warrior past lives, fighter, you know,
Hmm.
and you're tired of it. So you came in here to like, how can we change without a fight? How can we
Hmm.
change without a battle? And you had like died in war, pretty recent past life. Were you in the military at all this time around?
No, not this time.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, don't do that. So this is like you are wanting to make an impact without the fight, and
Hmm.
still play a big game. That's what you came here. And I have no doubt that you will.
Mm, that's awesome. Yeah. No, it's 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 just like there is a draw there. There is a pull, and this, and I try not to, at first, this whole thing has been ego. It was ego, right? Like it was all of it was ego. Really, it was like, what can I do? Because it was like that entrepreneur. I want to be the entrepreneur. Now it's like, no, I don't want to be the entrepreneur. I want to be like helping others find their way. I want to find my own way in the same time, and I want to help as many people as I can. But then
Yeah.
it's also like, I have to. I guess there's like this. I don't know. I don't know, Lisa. It's like there's just so much stuff out there. Like it's like spirituality, there's a religious dogma, indoctrination. It's like there's just so many different paths to the top of the mountain. And I want to find the one that is I don't want to know. I don't want to believe anymore, if that makes sense. I don't want to
Mm.
believe in things. I want to know, and I'm experiencing, I'm trying to investigate my meditations. I'm trying to, search, my consciousness and try to contact, the higher self. And I want to do it, and I feel like I do it when I have conversations like this. I feel like I do it in my meditations. I feel like I'm being pushed down this path of not, I don't want to say greatness. I want to say more so like
It's like
enlightenment.
meaning. It's
Yeah,
like me.
meaning, and then like
Yeah.
helping others do that along the way, and then like showing others that I've done this. I have this reoccurring image of me standing on stage, at Madison Square Garden, and having a talk or whatever about consciousness. And it's like, it's more or less like, guys, I have done this. I have rebuilt myself. I have done these things. I have developed my consciousness. I have expanded it. I have expanded myself. And I want you to know that you can do this too, because it doesn't just help them. It helps me. And I mean, when I mean that, I mean that we're all connected, intertwined. So when I do these things, I'm helping myself essentially expand my consciousness. So like that
Right.
desire is there, but I don't know if desire is good or bad. I don't know. You know what I mean?
It seems righteous to me, and I hope you get there. I hope you do it. I think you will. You know, you're riding this wave of the shift in human consciousness. Like there's a huge opportunity, and so many people are changing. That there's an opportunity for evolution like there's never been before on the planet.
Yeah.
So you're riding that wave, and it's probably partly why you came here right now at this time, and that's your soul's calling that's telling you that to do that. And I mean, I really respect your take, and I'm the same way, even though I'm a psychic. I don't know. I have an open mind. I don't know if I would believe everything that I talk about, except that I've experienced it. Do you know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
and I think that means you're intelligent. Being a little skeptical or wanting to experience things for yourself just means you're smart and you're thinking for yourself.
Sure.
And of course you want to have those experiences.
Yeah. Well, when I talk to psychics, right? When I talk, because I love the fact that people are having these gifts, but then you're also teaching other people to that they have these gifts, right? Like
Yeah.
you're teaching them how to be intuitives, you're teaching them how to be empaths, you're teaching the empaths how to deal with their sensitivity towards
Yeah.
the world,
Yep.
which I think is spreading that consciousness, that is allowing others to realize that they are greater than what they think. And it all starts from within. And I love the work that you do. And I love talking to psychics because it's not, I mean, yes, it feels good to hear about, past lives that I've had, because it's like that just I'm a big fan of reincarnation. So to hear those things, it kind of like feels good. But then again, it's like I need people to know that they do need to be open-minded and skeptical about the things that they hear. They can't just buy in 100%.
Right.
They have to really experience it for themselves, and then they have to feel how it feels to them, and then they have to somehow find a pattern in their life that it makes sense for them to continue working and walking that path.
Right.
But psychics, like, again, like your work is very important because you demonstrate, through, I'm sure, um the evidence that you provide for people with past loved ones or whatever, that there is life after this place, that there is something that is not outside of us, but there's something that is something that we, just because we can't see it doesn't mean it's not there, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, having lost a loved one is a lot of times a person's best or first opportunity to think about what happens when we die. Where are they now, and can I talk to them, right? And mediums, I don't specifically work as a medium. I do it when I need to do it, when it's in my client's best interest, and I always have been able to do it. My real specialty is the soul stuff we were talking about, but there is an incredibly healing potential for people to have communication with their loved one from the other side when somebody dies suddenly and you don't get closure. When people like wonder, especially now, people are dying when they're dying from COVID. You can't be with your person, you can't be with your loved one when they're passing away, and those people are dying in isolation, and a lot of them don't cross over very well, I'm sad to say. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of need right now for we got to get an army of healers out there into the hospitals and help these people that are stuck because they died in such messed up circumstances suddenly and difficult, and so mediums do things like help the ones that are having trouble crossing over get to the other side and facilitate communication between people that have passed away and their loved ones, so healing can happen. And sometimes we can have a better if we have a tricky relationship with somebody, um, we might have a better conversation with them after they're dead.
Sure.
It might be, there might actually be, that's the first and only time that a real conversation can be had or healing can
Sure.
happen.
Well, I think we all can have conversations with the past loved one, right? So like I think through, and I've done some research in this area of like um using our imaginations and connecting with that conscious, we are consciousness. So the
Right.
higher levels of consciousness, why can't we connect with it? We are a part of that. We are individual units of consciousness connected to the higher source of consciousness, so we should be able to connect with everything that is consciousness. So for people listening to this, I have tried it for myself. I have some success, some personal evidence, some subjective evidence of my own, to, if you like use your imagination and have a conversation with someone that is passed, you do that 10 times, and then you just have a conversation, you just let it go, and then at some point in that meditation or that conversation, that person is going to start talking to you, and you're not making it up. Like, they're saying things to you,
Absolutely.
but it's not going to be verbal. It's going to be all like through the mind. And then you start, Christina Rasmussen, who has been on the show before, has demonstrated this time and time again. I have done it for myself, where you ask at, maybe the 15th time that you have a conversation with your father, mother, grandparent, whatever, you ask for some type of evidential
Mhm.
artifact and say, hey, show me this. If this is, I don't know how do you want to word it, but just say, hey, can you show me this or whatever in your meditation? And usually, more than likely, it will manifest in your physical reality. And that's just, that demonstrates what, there's something more out there that we need to be researching, that we need to get connected with more. And it kind of wakes us up a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is something that everyone can do. And if you have a conversation out loud with one of your loved ones, that's one of my things that I encourage people to do. They're going to hear you. You may have difficulty hearing the answer unless you do something like what you recommended, which is to practice a lot. I like to if you take a picture of them, you light a little white candle, you burn a stick of incense, and you really focus on the picture, and then you talk out loud. Say their name out loud before you start, because when we say their name, it's like an invocation that invites them to be present in the room with us, and if they're for real, having a sign that they often do want to prove to us that they're for real, and because they know we worry about it, they know we're afraid we're crazy and we're making it all up in our own heads, so they will often leave, like you said, flicker the lights or play a song on the radio for you or leave you a penny or a feather, or all those
Yep.
kinds of signs and omens that let us know they're actually, it's legit and they're really around.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
had a meditation with my grandfather, and it was like, a guided meditation, but it was like during the end of it, they were like, now your loved one will hand you a gift. And this, when he handed me this gift, it was like a pocket knife or something, like an old wooden pocket knife. And I didn't think anything of it. But then like 2 weeks later, I found that same pocket knife, inside the house. I was like freaked out. I was like, whoa, you know what I mean? But this was at the very beginning of my journey, and it's happened multiple times through multiple conversations, with other entities or beings. These things are coming into my reality. So now it's not a belief, it's a known that these things happen.
Right.
Um, how do you, I've been really, just kind of hemmed up on this question. How do you talk about, you have kids, right?
Yeah.
How do you talk about that with your kids? Like when they first start coming up? I mean, I think yours are a little bit older, but mine are
My
like
kids
hitting,
are adults.
yeah, mine are hitting
Um,
11 and 9, and they're starting to listen. No, maybe not listen, but see some of my podcast episodes and like, Dad, what is your podcast about? So like, how do you have those conversations?
I think finding an age appropriate way to talk about it that fits in with your family's faith tradition or cultural, religious, spiritual belief set. So, when my kids were all really psychic in different ways. And if you've got little kids, they're not really hung up on it. What little kids need validation that what they're experiencing is real. That's what I didn't get. My parents didn't try to shut me down, but they were like, pat me on the head. Oh, you have such a big imagination. Or look at all you and your imaginary friends. Like, where do you think up this stuff, Lisa? That's what I heard all the time, And so they need validating. Oh, I'm talking to Granny. Oh, I bet you are. So what's she saying? Like that. Like we want to kind of encourage them, and I think like the conversation we just had is probably really good. Like encourage them to be skeptical, encourage them to think for themselves, but to be open-minded,
Mm-hmm.
and talk with them about what they've experienced or what they believe. Well, what do you think about it? What do you believe in it? And my kids were kind of like, I would do Reiki on them when they were little. I'd say, do you want a Band-Aid or Reiki? And they always picked Reiki, and one of my oldest son, went on to study Reiki and become a Reiki master and, really kind of go that way. My middle son, he was a jock. He played football. And one day he brought me his friend from the football team, and his friend's mom had died when he was little. And I did a reading for half the varsity football team, and they were all crying, and they were all like, then they had all questions. Kids have problems, and I always loved that I could help them. I love that I could connect them with their relatives or do tarot card readings for them or give them Reiki. And my kids brought me all of their friends that were struggling and needed help.
Mm.
I was kind of that mom. And so for me, it was like reflecting back to them, like, well, what do you experience? And what's happening for you? What do you think about it? and let
Mm,
them make their own decisions, about what they believe.
mm,
Let them ask questions, let them figure it out. Maybe let them try a meditation.
sure. Do do you connect with them on a soul level at that age as well, or is that kind of like you're just easing them into it and you're not really telling them anything because it might be too detrimental to their development? I don't know. Is that
For all of my people, and I tell people this right off the bat, I don't ask, don't tell policy with my psychic stuff. I'm not going to say it unless you ask. And I would have 0 friends if I broke that rule. Do you know what I mean? If we're out having a drink, I'm like just trying to be a person, having a conversation with another person. And I have to ignore a lot of stuff to do that, but doesn't help my friends or my children or the
sure?
people that I love to be all like, let me tell you what's going to go on. Let me tell you what's going to happen. You're going to break up with that dude in about 3 weeks after things go sideways. I could see it coming a mile
Do you
away,
see it
but
like that? Do you see it like? I mean,
of course.
is
And it
it?
doesn't, a lot of times it doesn't take a psychic to see it that way either. You know what I mean? Or it
Yeah,
just
I
takes
guess.
but I'm just like, I don't say anything unless they ask me. And guess what? They hardly ever do.
What do you see when you're having a conversation with somebody? Like me, do you see things going on right now that you're holding yourself back? Like,
Well, if I'm in a session with somebody, it's a little different. Like
mhm,
then, but I asked you before, I, I don't believe I'm very strong about ethics with psychics because there are
sure.
a lot of psychics out there that have terrible ethics and that don't have any or don't know they should, you know. And so people deserve to have privacy, and I don't break that without permission, basically. But if you're in a session with me, that's different. I'm going to look, but I'm going to look in the direction you want me to look. So my sessions always start with a question like, what do you need? Like, how can I help? What's on your mind? And then we go from there. But I don't do that with with ordinary people because it would be really annoying to be, under scrutiny like that all the time.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's oh man. I can only imagine. It takes a lot of energy out of you, you know.
Yeah, it's work, you know what I mean? Just so like, and if you had a friend that was a doctor or a lawyer, like we hope that you wouldn't be asking for free legal advice or medical advice, on Friday night when you're having a drink, like, oh, will you look at this mole? Like, no, like come to the office and get an appointment, you know what I mean? And yeah, of course, if my friends are like, Lisa, I really need your help right now. Yes, I will do it, of course.
Mhm.
Or if my kids say that, which they never do, guess what? So I just kind of like, we all have to figure it out. We all have to figure it out as
Let
we
me
I
ask
didn't
you this.
listen.
So
I didn't listen to my
is
parents when I was their age
yeah,
either.
right.
So there you
Well,
go.
I mean, parents know best, and you might know you might know better. Um, so is our future probable possibilities, or is it like kind of like set in stone of what's going to happen?
I don't think it's set in stone. I really think there's a lot more randomness down here on planet Earth than we think. I think we have kind of like missions, we have goals, like we were talking about, like you have this goal to impact a lot of people. I have this soul level goal to like train psychics and healers and empaths because I think the world needs all the healers it can get. And my goal is to create an army of healers. Like that's my purpose down here. And this is a very, you know, souls come on this planet to experience a very unique set of things. So we have 50 light and dark. It's 50% light, 50% dark. We have free will, so we can choose between these two polarities. That's incredible. Then we have physicality. We have a physical body, which allows us to experience the results of our choices, cause
Mm.
and effect, and actually experience, because we have a nervous system and emotions and all this stuff. And so what would be the point of being on a free will planet if everything was already set in stone and predestined?
Yeah, right.
What would be the point? We choose, we experience the results, we learn, and
Mhm.
we choose. So we have some dark lives, we have some light lives. We come here to experience that. We have a lot in between to experience the range you know, of human possibility across a wide spectrum.
Mm.
And your soul doesn't see like failure, really. It's like, oh, you're going to take the dark path. You're going to be Darth Vader. Excellent. We'll see how that goes. Like, and then when you get to the other side, you process that and learn. You might have racked up some really intense karma by doing that, and you're like, okay, Luke Skywalker this time, and we're going to see what that's like, and I don't know. So to have it all predestined, what would be the point? And at the same time, we do have, really like soul contracts with people, where, your spouse, your kids, your parents, there's an agreement that happens before we get here. Obviously, you're not choosing as a child born, you're not making that free will choice. That happens. Sometimes we have things that happen that are part of our predestiny. Sometimes, you get hit by a bus walking across the street and that was not part of your plan.
Sure. Bad luck.
You
When you see things like past lives, do you see it like a visual or is it like a sense?
Mostly I'm a visual psychic, so I see it like a little movie, but I often get sound and feeling and knowing and smell and taste, and like it's kind of like a surround sound kind of movie, if it's a really deep one. And so yeah, kind of can come through all of my senses, but my primary is visual.
I've had because I've had people tell me that I was a warrior or a soldier at some point in my past
Yeah,
life.
you were one of your really recent ones.
Do you see that like a visual kind of thing? Is it like
yeah, I do, like a little movie playing down here, and I can ignore it and just go back to our conversation, or I can look at it and then I get more detail. You know what I mean?
What was it? Killed in battle kind of thing, or was
killed in battle, tired of killing other people, is what I think. And it was kind of you've got a couple of them. Like one of them is like probably the Knights Templar. So I see like this big church, like, and they were like righteous. They were like the church knights. They were on a mission. But you got real tired of killing, and questioning whether it was the right thing to do, even though it seemed like it was the right thing to do. But you have a pretty recent one. I want to say like Korea or Vietnam, where you just put down your rifle and you're like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not killing children. I'm not doing, like, it was a dirty war, whatever it was. And you were like, it went so against your grain that you were like, I'm done. And I don't know, like they put you in the brig or something for desertion and you're like, I don't care. Court martial me. I'm not doing that. You just made a choice. And when you made a choice so deep, it's like a soul level oath. You're like, never going to do that again.
Wow.
There's going to be another way.
That's so interesting. It's so powerful. Because it's like, I have always struggled, especially with like, authority, just growing up and like, just questioning, that's the hardest thing for me is questioning, like, decision making that I don't agree with, right? And it's always been a problem for me. And you're not the first person to tell me that. And
if you ever get a chance to travel to Vietnam and Cambodia, you should go there. Yeah, I think you would remember this lifetime.
Wow, that's great. Like
what year were you born?
83.
So I think you like probably, I don't know what happened to you or when you tapped out of that lifetime, but it looks like the kind of late 60s, early 70s part of the Vietnam War.
Is it like that? That's interesting. So like when you see it, was I killed in the war or was it like after the war or what?
I think it was after the war. It might have, I don't know what happened to you. If it was an accident, you just needed to get out of, you needed to get out, or died accidentally on your way home from the war. I think they were going to court martial you. And you were like, no, I'm out. I'm like, not going through that.
Jeez. Young guy? I guess
yeah.
Younger guy, right?
And young guy, really young, like early 20s, and from the Midwest, and drafted. So you're already pissed off to be drafted. Like you didn't have a choice,
That's so interesting that you can get these details.
It wasn't your gig at all.
Like you can see all of that. That's just so like what, so when we go through these things as a soul, like you go through like, like, does it say, all right, I want to be like 8 lives of warrior, and then I'm going to be 8 lives of lover, I'm going to be 8 lives of tragedy, I'm going to be 8 lives of this? Or is it just kind of like, I just want to experience it, I'm going to go just try these things and see what it's like? Because I feel like you get in
So
patterns. Like I feel like this is a pattern,
there
right?
are patterns. Yeah, there are themes. There are patterns that we all go through, and sort of like lessons, you know what I mean? So you might go through like a series of lessons around victimhood where you get victimized a lot. And if you're working the polarity, you might be the victimizer, and that's one we all go through. You were like more on a liberation cycle. So this is also like I call it liberation school, where you are liberating, you're freeing your mind, you're
Mhm.
choosing that you're not going to be you have like karma around like beholden to the institution, kind of like enslaved by the institution. In this case, it was the military, that took your freedom away, and you're like, nope, done with that. So you're liberate this. You've got to be free. That's really important for you, you know?
So,
So you're in a liberation cycle, and I don't know how many lifetimes that will take you, right? But when you finish this lifetime, like when you finished that warrior lifetime, you died, you went up to soul world, you had a meeting with your guides, you talked about what you learned, you processed it all, you kind of squeezed all the juice out of that life and get all the lessons and think about it. And then you make a decision, okay, now what's the next move? What's the next possibility, opportunity for me to heal, to grow, to express myself, to experience something that I need to experience? Like, what's the next beat for me? And then you come into this life,
mhm,
and when you're done with this one, you'll have the same thing will happen.
mhm,
You'll figure it out. You'll choose,
mhm.
what you want to experience next.
Well, let me ask you this. So, like, a lot of people say this is like kindergarten for people, right? And
Mm.
where do we get, like, what is first grade like? What is second grade like? What is third grade like? Did they give you any insight on that?
I think that this is nursery school for warrior spirits. It's kind of a nursery planet for new souls, and a lot of warriors, like 75% of the people here are warrior spirits, and it's a very hard place to incarnate. It's hard physically, it's hard emotionally, spiritually, and the suffering that we have here is what teaches compassion. So as we suffer, we learn compassion. If you're like, oh, I'm a slave in this lifetime, this really sucks, and all of a sudden you feel like all this compassion for everyone else that's in that situation, and that's where we soften, where we grow, where we learn compassion. What comes next, I've had glimpses of it in my own meditations, is a dimension that's much more like paradise, where your mind can create reality or solid matter, but we don't get to go there until we have control of our thoughts and our feelings, which
Mm,
is extremely difficult. It takes a long time to do that,
mhm.
because if you took me and you and would put us on that planet, that dimension, you'd be like, giving a kid a box of matches. I wonder, like, I wonder what it'd be like to have it see a dragon, and suddenly you're dead because the dragon, whatever. So gee, I hope there's no plague on this planet. Boom, plague.
Oh,
Like
wow.
we are not ready for that, and it just
Mhm,
takes a lot of kind of like enlightened beings, the ascended masters, like people who reach enlightenment, learn how to control their thoughts and feelings, and then they move on to that place.
One thing I struggle with, Lisa, and I don't mean to sound like very like down on like angels and archangels and ascended masters. I have a problem. I guess it's the old lives that I've had, like the hierarchy of things. Like I get, it's like, why are like I guess maybe it's just the labels I have problems with. Like I just feel like archangels, angels, and ascended masters are just us at a different level, right? Like
Well,
I don't.
angels have never been human, so it's not like you die and become an angel.
Mhm.
They're divine, they're helpers. They're here to help, but they don't have human experiences, and um they're not. I can see why a lot of people are like, don't tell me what to do. And if you have a don't tell me what to do kind of attitude about life, then you might be that way with your guides. And you might learn the best by actually figuring things out on your own and experiencing things on your own. In that case, your guides are going to be very hands off with you, and they're going to like give you suggestions from the sidelines. Hey, Trey, why don't you think about that? Why don't you try that? That's not true for me. My guides are super bossy. I often say I just show up and do what I'm told. And
Really?
I knew from the beginning that was the deal.
Hmm.
That was my agreement, that I was going to have some extraordinary talents and that I was going to come here to help people. And that part of that was to be of service.
Hmm.
And that my life of service would in some ways preempt my personal life.
Hmm. I am very
You know?
hard-headed. I am very hard-headed. Yes, I have to learn by experience, but it's also like a part of me is like kind of like I don't want it to be dogmatic, for my life, it's always been, and I'm sure people can relate to this. I don't need another, another religion or a dogma to telling me that I need to do something or worship something in order to get to heaven. Like, that's
I've
the
never
thing,
seen angels or ascended masters want that. They're just
no?
here to help. No, that's a very human thing.
Yeah, a ego thing probably.
Humans want that. Religious people want that. Ideologies, dogmas, old religions think that's the way it goes. But, religion is, and this is a radical thing, so I apologize if it's offensive or to some people. Organized religion is sort of like in the middle stage of spiritual development,
Hmm.
where we want to sort of be told to what to do.
Mhm.
And when you get to be an old soul and you're advanced, then we drop those ideologies, and strict rules and things, and we figure it out for ourselves. So the real spiritual path, that's the difference between religion and spirituality. You're done with religion and you're on a spiritual path, which is your connection to God, to divine, is totally between you. It's totally personal and totally individual. And
Mhm.
you got to figure it out. It's like you can walk the path or you can bushwhack up the mountain, with your machete. And that's the stage that you're on. And it's hard, but it's real.
I know I'm on that stage. I trust me, I know it. And there's times where I go on a run and I look at the sky and I say, I surrender. I don't know. I know what I want. I don't know how to get it. I surrender and I'll let it be.
I had
Um,
that conversation with myself when I was about 13.
really.
Yeah. And I was talking to God and I was like, I'm taking my hands off the wheel, you drive.
It's very because like we white knuckle everything. I know I have. I've done it up to a certain point. We white knuckle things and we try to make things our way. And it's, a lot of that is fear driven, a lot of ego driven. But then when you start letting them, letting go of the rope, then you start seeing more results. You start seeing things flowing more towards you, or even your capacity to love. For me, my heart has been opening and softening, and my heart chakra, if you want to call it that, is definitely released more. I feel more like I get emotional about things a lot sooner or quicker than I used to. Like just feeling things, like
Yeah.
um what was it recently? There's something. Bob Saget just passed away, right?
Right.
I don't even know the guy, but because like he was a big, a big. I watched him on Full House growing up, right? Like he was a big
Mhm.
part of that growing up nostalgia, watching America's Funniest Home Videos. Like a part of me was like, oh my goodness. Anytime anybody loses their life, really, battle or whatever they're, whatever's going on in their life, and they lose that battle. Um, it's sad, but for me, it was like, I normally, like if I was on, 5 years ago, Trey wouldn't bat an eye, but now it's like everything, like little things. I mean, really,
Mhm.
I had long hair for 2 years since COVID started, and I just got a cut, and I get up out of the chair and I turn around and I see the hair on the ground, man. I almost started bawling. Like I was like, that's 2 years of my hair that's been through all of my transition, and now it's on the floor, and it's like, it's I can definitely notice a difference in spirituality and growth. I don't know if you can
Right.
relate to this whatsoever.
Absolutely. And I think like as we go through our spiritual journey, we clear our chakras, we open things, we get more connected. You're opening your heart chakra. And, I think that coming out of that military lifetime, you were really angry. You were angry at authority, angry at war, angry at all those things. And so you might have had phases in your life where that was sort of your first emotion that you would hit would be anger. And as you've cleaned that out, you're opening the heart more and feeling other things, feeling love, feeling tenderness, feeling vulnerability. When we really, as warriors, when we really stand in our power, we feel vulnerability.
Mm.
We feel the real power of the warrior is the open-hearted, vulnerable warrior.
Mm. What were some of your past lives?
Kind of been all over. One of my favorite ones was I was a samurai, which is kind
That's
of fun
pretty
because
cool.
I lived in Japan, and I was in Japan studying martial arts. And I remember that. I remember a lot of my own past lives. My very first one was in Egypt, and I was put into like an Egyptian mystery school.
Mhm.
And I've done a lot of work inside mystery schools and helping people. Had sort of an odd past life history,
Mhm.
like
Do you
really.
remember? Do you remember things like when you look at certain I don't know, monuments
Yeah,
or like history books?
absolutely. And I feel often called to travel to places that I've been in the past.
Have
So
you
I
been yet?
remember, yeah, I went to Egypt, remembered a lot of stuff there. I went to Greece, and I was like, I went to this weird island nobody ever goes to. Like, it's off the beaten path. And I'm like, oh, I know this place. Like, when I turn around this road, there's going to be a little cottage there and an olive grove there and a windmill there. Like that. And there was, I'm like, oh man, and people that I've seen from the past, we all have that experience when we meet our soulmates, that kind of recognition. That's a
Mhm.
really, really common. And also, if you have a phobia, it's often past life related
Mm.
too. So phobias are sometimes unresolved deaths in past lives. So if you have a phobia about snakes, you might have been killed by a snake, like, or heights or things like that.
Mine is heights. I don't know why. I don't heights. I'm sure you can see it.
Interesting. Yeah, you might have
I might have jumped
fallen,
out of that helicopter or whatever when I
yeah,
was coming back from
helicopter
Vietnam.
crash or something like that. It
Yeah.
might have been, I think it was more like a crash because I think it was an accident.
Mm. Yeah, then that's it's so interesting. I really like, I really love this stuff because it's just, everything is subjective. Everything, like everything, our experience here is subjective. Everyone, science, I get it, right? Like you want to, there is room for, objectivity or, being objective, empirical, but every decision we make in our daily lives is subjective. There's not somebody behind us, a bean counter, like, measuring our choices and saying, oh, that's the wrong one. I had a vision the other day, right? A meditation where I was very deep in meditation, and it was like I was experiencing another reality where every choice was like was that was made was the most efficient choice that anyone could possibly make. So I mean, I'm talking about traffic going and stopping all like in sync and like perfect patterns. And it was
Mm,
like everybody was making these perfect decisions, and people were, but everybody was like a robot, right? Like everybody was robotic in their decision making. And yes, they got the best, most efficient result, but no one had any learning from that. It was like, all right, tally it up, and that's what I'm gonna do. And like the thing that I got from that meditation was like, why is this life so subjective? Is because that's where the biggest gain of learning is. It's like you make the best choices sometimes and you make the worst choices sometimes, and you
right.
learn in between that gap, you learn. And you have the opportunity and free will and in this physical reality to learn a lot. And it's up to you, really. Is that a smoke alarm or something?
No, it's a car alarm.
Car alarm. You have opportunities to improve yourself, and that's what I think we're here. Obviously, is to obviously because some people don't know that, but like you were saying earlier, this is like an early school for our
Yep.
development of
It's the
consciousness.
curveball where you learn the most, that random stuff that gives you like, and even the random stuff, we still have choice. So we still have choices around how we're going to deal with the things that we have no control over, like
Mhm.
even if you do get hit by a bus, or we don't have much control over the pandemic at the moment, but we have choices about how we're going to deal with it, how we're going to let it, are we going to let it open us and evolve us, or are we going to let it close us and shut us down? That's the ultimate choice, I think.
Where do you see, like, I'm sure you get this question, like, where do you see the pandemic going for us and our development?
There's a couple of ways we evolve. We evolve slowly over time and changing conditions, and we evolve quite quickly through viruses. Viruses like unzip our DNA, change everything around, zip it back up again, and there's physical human evolution that happens through viruses. So I just think that it's part of that. And I don't know quite what the opportunity is going to be there, but I think the virus and the pandemic is part of an overall deconstruction phase. So we're in this massive deconstruction phase, which is quite normal. You know, empires rise, they thrive, they fall, and we're in the fall, kind of globally. And all the structures and empires and all these big giant things are going to fall. It's a natural pattern of evolution, part of alchemy, actually, where things grow, things sustain, and things dissolve. And I have faith that they're going to reestablish at a higher level of beauty, harmony, and order. We're getting an upgrade, you know, and we have to let go of the old if we're going to get an upgrade.
Sure. Yeah.
And we don't like that as humans. It's really uncomfortable to be part of a deconstruction cycle. There's chaos, there's loss, there's death, there's things are falling apart. Inside of that, there's opportunity. There always is, you know, if we can figure it out. There's like opportunity, like we'll do a podcast or write a book, or like, you know, people need help. We have an opportunity there to grow as we let go. And that's what's so interesting to me about it, is there's no holding on to things, even if you want to.
No, I think it's a great opportunity for us to evolve as spiritual beings, right? Like taking the time to step back and just kind of like reflect on where we've been. And
so many people like got broken out of some, like the trance we were in, like the hamster wheel kind of we were on, and got to really consider what they want to do and how they want to live. And you know, it's been an incredible reset for so many of us.
Where can people find you? Where can they connect with you?
So I have a website, lisacampion.com, and I have you know, a lot of things available there, free resources for empaths and psychics, people who are going through a spiritual emergence. I have all kinds of training, Reiki training, online available there, and psychic development classes. I have 2 books that you can find on Amazon. One's called The Art of Psychic Reiki, and the other's called Energy Healing for Empaths, and they're available on Amazon. And yeah, really, if you're feeling like you are having a spiritual emergence, a psychic opening, or just really figuring out that you're meant to be a healer and try to figure out what that looks like, that's what I like to do.
That's your jam. That's
my jam.
Yeah. What's the Instagram handle? I know you got an Instagram.
Lisa X Campion.
Make sure you guys follow her. Lisa, I also want to ask you a question. Like, so we were talking about future probabilities. Do you think that once we have this realization of what we truly are, this powerful consciousness, awareness, can we use our coherence with, you know, mind, body, and soul to attract things into our lives, to remold our futures, to bring in, you know, bring to fruition what our desires are?
Absolutely. The clearer we get, the more we heal our trauma, the more we evolve spiritually, the more coherent. I love the fact that you just used that word. The more coherent we get as beings, the more light we carry literally in our being, in our energy field, the easier life gets, the more happy we can become. We go into kind of a flow state where doors open, you know, synchronicities happen, magic happens, and it's sort of like jumping into a river and sort of floating along the path of the river instead of paddling upstream. When we're not right, when we're traumatized, when we're have unprocessed emotions and things we've got to deal with, we go the wrong way and we just get friction and have problems, you know. So there's a lot of benefit to doing the inner work, meditation, therapy, counseling, healing, whatever it is you got to do to align yourself up and get yourself in alignment, because it's so much more fun. Life is so much more easy. The rewards are great for that.
Well, Lisa, I can't thank you enough for coming on. Like, I love this. Like, we got to have you back on. Like, this has been fun.
Yeah, anytime, Trey. It's great conversation, and I'm happy to do it anytime you want.